Namaste everybody. Welcome to one more session under the lecture series Biostatistics Made Easy. Dear friends, today we are going to discuss a very interesting, important and a useful topic called as application of biostatistics in Ayurveda research. See, this is a common question that most of the students or teachers generally ask. What is the use of statistics in research? That too, particularly in the research of Ayurveda. So in today's session, we'll try to explore the various uses and importance of biostatistics in Ayurveda research. In any team of research, especially in a sponsored or a commercial research, we always find there is a presence of a biostatistician. His role is to design, monitor, analyze, interpret and report the study in any form of research. But when it comes to academic research or research that takes place in a post-graduation studies or in a PhD studies, we generally would like to do this studies or this application by our own. So that is where, as a student or as a teacher, as a practitioner, it is important to know some of the fundamental aspects of biostatistics and what are the areas where we need to apply biostatistics. So, but definitely wherever you have difficulties, wherever you don't have clarity, it is always important or it is always better that you consult a statistician for his suggestions. But as a student, as a teacher, you also need to know the fundamental understanding or fundamental aspects of biostatistics and what are those areas and what are those important applications where we can use this branch of biostatistics in Ayurveda research. As rightly said by Ralph Waldo Emerson, if you learn only methods, you'll be tied up to your methods. But if you learn principles, you can devise your own methods. Rather than just going a bit with the methods or just blindly following any statistical method or any statistical test, whether to go with a t-test or ANOVA, etc., it is equally important that you go to the fundamentals of its understanding, know the basic principles, why, where and how to use these statistical methods in various studies, maybe observational study or intervention study or cross-sectional studies. Based on different studies, if you can understand what are those basic principles, basic concepts which helps you to understand, and probably this will make you better equipped to design your own methods and learn the most appropriate or the suitable principles in applying various statistical methods. So with this starting note, I would like to give you a brief understanding of what are the various areas where we can apply the branch of biostatistics in Ayurveda research. We all talk about research and also talk about research happening in Ayurveda. So before we talk about the application of biostatistics in Ayurveda research, I'd like to just touch upon few of the prime areas or the know about the status of the research happening in Ayurveda in general, and also about the status of the research happening in academia, both in post-graduation as well as in PhD studies. So let me just take you around for a few slides around the status of the research that's happening in the area of Ayurveda. So to look at the present status of research in Ayurveda, see, research was never separate from the practice. So people would always practice Ayurveda and there was no prime focus on research as a separate entity other than the practice in the ancient days. No doubt or undoubtedly the science was based on research and evidence, but not on a very methodical way of doing it. But the experience of the observation of the ancient authors was that they used to experience, they used to observe critically, and then they used to write various literatures just as we do the publications. So experience was given more importance rather than acquiring evidence in the ancient days. And if you look at the type of research happening mostly in the area of Ayurveda or in most of the branches of Ayurveda, we see that we select a medicine and one disease. Maybe a medicine for osteoarthritis, a medicine for diabetes mellitus, a gugulu is used for sandivata, or a kashaya used for diabetes or madhumeha, etc. So most oftenly we are just trying to follow one medicine, one disease approach, which may not talk about the totality or the holism or the system biology related with Ayurveda. And most of the time we see that the extensive focus of research in Ayurveda is focused on drug research or clinical research. Undoubtedly, they are the important component or important aspects of research which need to be addressed. But apart from this, there are many other potential areas which are there which need to be explored. We either see a drug being discovered, or we see that its application in the clinical research, or a lot of clinical trials being conducted. And more than that, probably if we can look on the various aspects of the fundamental research or other basic research, I think this is what is the need of the hour. So though the research was something different than practice in the ancient days, but with the evidence-based medicine, with the globalization of the system of medicine, with the acceptance that people are looking for from various parts of the world, it is equally important that we do research. And research has become a basic need, a priority now. So we cannot just go ahead with the orthodox way of looking at Ayurveda as experience-based science. Along with experience, we also need to generate the evidence, and through applying the proper methods of research and to apply the proper methods of statistics. So the focus should not be just on the drug or the clinical research. Ample or sufficient focus should be given on the basic and the fundamental research, because Ayurveda believes in strong foundation of the basic aspects of Tridosha, Panchamabhuta, etc. So if basic work can be done on these fundamental aspects, lot of contribution can be done in Ayurveda. Along with that, enormous importance has been given on the methodology. People always think that the methodology followed in the contemporary science, like an interventional study, more often a randomized controlled trial, may not be appropriate to study the traditional system of medicines like Ayurveda. Definitely yes, they cannot be adopted as such, but definitely we can make some modification, some alteration, so that appropriate study design can be put up to study various research in Ayurveda. So, but the main focus that we should put whenever we are designing such methods or methodology, that one should never forget the basic concepts or the fundamental principles of Ayurveda. All the basic principles of Ayurveda like dosha, dhatu, agni, koshta, ahara, avastha of the vyadhis, all the fundamental concepts should be put forward, should be incorporated whenever you are taking up research in Ayurveda. So the methodology should include the fundamental principles of Ayurveda without compromising the fundamental principles. We can definitely adopt the latest research methodologies to research Ayurveda. And probably this is a time when we need to collaborate and do various interdisciplinary, collaborative and integrative research with the basic science, with biology, technology, with cases of genetics. So lot of opportunities are available to go ahead with such newer areas or newer avenues in the areas of research. No doubt the research in such areas in Ayurveda is still in its infancy, but there are few positive steps which has been taken, like Ayurgenomics or Ayurveda biology, and so many new studies being taken up by various research organizations. But the quantum of the research or the training of the personals or the professionals involved in Ayurveda are still very, very minimal. So there is a strong need to get trained, and probably we need to put our training into the practice so that we can be a part of this strong interdisciplinary collaborative research. So there is an urgent need that we should take research on a very, very serious note. So what can we do, or how we can take this forward? If there are challenges, definitely there are also good number of solutions available. So let's make some improvement in the research methodology as discussed earlier by adopting the fundamental principles of Ayurveda. The various concepts that has been dealt in depth can be incorporated to the clinical and to the scientific background. There is need of validation of Ayurveda drugs. So the various drugs, either the single drugs or the polyherbal formulations, need to be validated in various clinical conditions apart from the basic research. And there is a need for improvement and standardization of the herbal drugs following the standards. The various pharmacopoeial standards need to be followed and appropriate research to be taken up. At the same time, not much work has been done in Ayurvedic literatures. So there is no much upgradation or the recent development happening in the literature of Ayurveda. So definitely now there have been the bioinformatics being used in the area of research, in the area of Ayurveda, where the various ancient samhitas or the ancient authoritative text has been able to be coming in electronic form, like we have e-samhitas, e-nigantu, etc., where we can easily search and find the information at the fingertips. So at the same time, there is need for the literatures to be published so that the various concepts can reach the scientific world and also being able to be utilized in the area of research. So one more important area that we need to focus is the long-term retro or the as well as the prospective research that need to be taken up. Whereas the retrospective studies and the prospective studies in the long term, generally we do the research for a very, very short period of time, which may not be sufficient. A long-term retrospective and prospective studies in the key areas or the thrust areas of research need to be conducted, and the population studies based on the Ayurvedic concepts, like how many individuals are the volunteers are having Vata Prakriti, how many of them have Mridu Koshta, how many of them have Tikshna Agnis, and how many of them are suffering with the various types of diseases, like how many of them are suffering with Amavata, what is the prevalence rate of Sandhivata. So we very often try to correlate these diseases to the modern disease and try to give the reference or the statistics of these modern diseases. Probably the time has come where the various epidemiological studies in terms of Ayurveda, like Ayurvedic epidemiology and demographics, need to be focused, and once we do that, probably we'll be able to come out with various informations related with Ayurveda and its research. So my humble request to all the postgraduate, the future scientists, as well as the teachers and the practitioners is to take research seriously, and to have this seriousness about research in Ayurveda. It is important that we orient ourselves, train ourselves, update and upgrade ourselves in the basic concepts of research and statistics. So that is where I feel that today's presentation on the basics of statistics and its applicability in Ayurveda research will be very, very useful to the listeners. So we saw about the status of Ayurveda in general. So let's see a little bit about what's the status of Ayurveda at academic level, or what's happening at the status of research at post-graduation as well as the PhD levels. So we always try to do plenty of research, a lot of research is happening at various institutions, various teaching institutions across India as well as across the globe. And we see that there is a huge gap between what we are researching and what we are practicing. So what we practice, generally we do not research, and what we research do not come into practice. So there is an urgent need that we reduce this gap between what we are practicing and what we are researching. So the focus should be on researching those which we practice. So that is where the comprehensive approach, rather than having a reductionist approach, a comprehensive holistic approach is required in the studies related with Ayurveda. We give enormous importance for the thesis, dissertation, research in Ayurveda at the academic level, especially in post-graduation as well as in PhD level. But when you see at the outcome, there is very minimal outcome happening, and the main reason for this is probably we are not following the appropriate methods. When the methods will be poor, the results that we obtain from these methods will not be also of that quality. So there is an urgent need that we all get trained in the proper research methods and the basic statistical methods, so that we can design the study appropriately, be able to answer the appropriate research question, and then maybe if we can use the proper method of collecting the data, presenting the data, analyzing and interpreting them, probably the research that we carry out will definitely be fruitful and useful in updating or in case of improving the quality of health as a chief outcome of any research. And most of the time we see that if at all we carry out research, we hardly publish. Most of the research at the academic level perish in the colleges. They do not come out as publication. So see, just as we do the research, until unless this research gets published in good journals, this research is useless. So there is also urgent need for orientation towards publication ethics, the journals that need to be explored, and the submission, and the whole art of scientific writing need to be trained for the post-graduation as well as teachers of Ayurveda. And if at all they do any research, they are just coming out as abstract in various conferences, seminars, etc., where though it is important areas, but it should not be just limited to these areas. So my humble request to all of you is that let's kindly revive, revitalize and give some rasayana to the research in Ayurveda. So when probably we'll try to understand this, whenever we try to incorporate all these basic methods, I think we will be able to take the science of Ayurveda at a better platform with a better acceptance throughout the world. So after looking at this basic status of research in Ayurveda at the global scenario, as well as the status of Ayurveda at the PG and PhD level, let's now focus on our key topic of how we can apply the basics of biostatistics in Ayurveda research. So initially I'll probably try to go briefly about the very vast area where we can apply biostatistics in the area of Ayurveda, and then probably try to focus on some of the important key areas in detail. So initially I'll brief out with some examples on the key areas and the applications, and then later on take up some of the important areas and I'll go into the depth of these concepts. So there are plenty, or I think statistics in Ayurveda can be applied each and every aspects of the science. So there are no areas where we cannot apply statistics. So maybe any literary study, any observational study, a drug research, analytical research, cross-sectional study, intervention study, any type of studies for that matter will require the fundamentals of biostatistics to be applied. Like, let's see, suppose you want to condense and organize the data. Like for example, you're doing any cross-sectional study, you do analysis of the data, or you collect the people suffering with diabetes or hypertension in a hospital, and you'd like to know what is their age and what is the type of medicines that they are taking. You can summarize them and organize them in a tables or graphs, and that can be represented. What is the average age of the patient visiting the hospital? What are the type of the prakriti that they are having? What are the common causes of diseases? They all can be summarized, tabulated and represented by using the appropriate statistical methods. Most importantly, statistics can be used for selecting the appropriate study design, because until unless we select the most appropriate study design, we will not be able to answer the research question. So we should be able to know what are those areas where one can select the study designs. So the study designs basically can be divided into observational study and the interventional studies. Again, under observational studies, we can divide into descriptive study and the analytical studies. So the basic difference between descriptive study and analytical study is that generally analytical study will have some form of controls or some form of comparators being available, whereas a descriptive is a single observational study. Whereas the interventional will have some form of intervention, procedures, or the therapeutic interventions like Panchakarma, Kriya Kalpa, Dravyabhuta, Adravyabhuta interventions will be there. Whereas in case of observational studies, there will be no active interventions being happening. It is more often a clear observations about the risk factors, outcome, etc. One more very important area, or why we need the knowledge of biostatistics, is for the sample size calculation. Okay, sample size is the optimum number of the samples that need to be studied in a research. And the most important message I'd like to give in this platform is that this is not a fixed number. Generally, we fix a number that it is 30 in one group or 20 in two groups each. So, dear friends, this sample size is not a fixed number. It's a number which is formulated or calculated based on the disease that you have selected, or the health condition, based on the study design, based on the endpoints, and most importantly is based on the prevalence rate of the particular condition. Like suppose you are doing an observational study, the sample size will be different. Suppose you are doing an intervention study on diabetes mellitus, the sample size will be different. Suppose you are doing an intervention study on diabetic retinopathy or neuropathy or nephropathy, the sample size will be different. And based on the outcome, whether you are looking for the complications or whether you are looking for the treatment, whether we are looking as the survival, so based on the endpoints also the sample size will change. So at least you should have the fundamental knowledge that this number is not a fixed number. You can use some basic formulas, some graphs or some tables, or even nowadays you are having the online softwares are available which can easily help you to select or calculate the sample size. Next, you have to test the hypothesis. We can use the knowledge of statistics. So where basically hypothesis refers to a tentative assumption or a presumption or a supposition or a prediction about any research question, and which can be either be proved or disproved. So there are two types of hypothesis, which are null hypothesis and research hypothesis, and by choosing the appropriate statistical test, we can either accept or reject the null hypothesis. So we'll talk in detail in the upcoming slides as well as in the future classes. Then based on that, we can always draw the valid conclusion. So we pick the samples from the population, we do the appropriate intervention of the population, we get the sample results, and these results are again generalized back to the population by using appropriate methods of generalization. We can also use the statistics to test the relationship between the variables, where we can use the concept of correlation analysis. Suppose there is Prakriti and the hours of sleep, the age of the patients and the systolic blood pressure. And suppose you want to test the relationship, whether there is a linear relationship between these two variables, then you need to apply the appropriate statistical test called as correlation. Or you can even predict the future events. Suppose you have the data of the previous years and you would like to know how many patients will come to our hospital, what could be the budget, and what could be the various types of target that we can fix for a company. These are done because influence of one variables will have the effect on other variables, and the concept that is used to predict the future events is regression analysis. The basic concepts of regression analysis will help a researcher to predict the future events. In the area of vital statistics, like vital statistics is a specialized branch of biostatistics where we focus on the vital events of the life like birth, or it could be the fertility, death, morbidity, mortality, etc., which helps us to take some decisions related with the policy. So various national health programs are in fact the outcome of the vital statistics. So that is also important areas where we can use the fundamentals of biostatistics. And suppose you want to measure the things. Suppose you have collected the information and you would like to know what is the average number of patients suffering, whether they are male or female, whether it is below 40 years, above 40 years, whether they are diabetic, non-diabetic. So suppose you have to measure them. They can be represented by using various descriptive statistics like a central tendency, dispersion, tables, etc. And suppose, as discussed previously, suppose you want to examine relationship, use the concept of correlation. To make predictions, use regression analysis. To test hypothesis, you can use inferential statistics, which is a branch of statistics where we try to draw some conclusions. And we can also use statistics to construct the concepts and develop the theories, where you are trying to test the hypothesis. So there are fundamentals of hypothesis, which I'll be talking in the future classes about the basics or fundamentals of hypothesis. What is hypothesis? What are the basic uses of hypothesis? The source of hypothesis and the steps that we take in testing a hypothesis. We'll discuss in the upcoming classes. And we can also explore the various issues related with the clinical studies. Like we can suppose we don't have hypothesis, so we can always do some exploratory studies. We can generate the hypothesis. We can also do the studies not only on the quantitative studies. See, there is a separate method, research methods called as qualitative research methods, which are very, very useful or important in Ayurveda research, because these qualitative studies can help to explain the activities, opinions, experiences, beliefs or attitudes about any phenomena or any procedures or any experiences for that matter. So there are so many qualitative research methods, like for example ethnographical studies or phenomenological studies, even the focus group discussion. Suppose there is a debate about the concept of a prajnaparada, or you want to discuss about a drug. So we can organize a focus group discussion, and there could be a moderator or facilitator, and we can always come out with some outcome of such fruitful discussion. So these are the methods which definitely can be used very, very effectively and efficiently. Describe what is happening by various methods of descriptive statistics. And once we collect and classify this data, we can also present this information in the form of presentation, like the presentation of data like through tables, which you call it as tabulation, in the help of graphs or even the diagrams. We can make comparisons to find the similarities and the differences by doing various comparative studies. We can draw a conclusion about the population based on the sample results. So as I said, we generally select the samples from the population by appropriate sampling methods, and from that we do some form of observation or intervention on these samples, and we are going to obtain the results. And these results can be, so that's the reason why we should be very, very careful, because there could be so many bias and errors that could happen at the level of sampling as well as at the level of decision making. So as a researcher, as a statistician, or those who have the basic knowledge of statistics should be aware of these simple basic aspects of the bias as well as the errors that we could come across during any research. So this is in very, very brief about the application of the knowledge of biostatistics in the area of Ayurveda research. So in the next part, upcoming parts, I'm going to talk in detail about some of these important aspects related with the biostatistics. Thank you.